Okay, we're going to do another assignment for AWS Cloud Quest. We are currently at 10, doing our 11th one today. Okay, when your city is loaded, click on the icon at the bottom right to see your assignment. You might have to wait a while for it to load. Today we'll be doing the highly available web applications. You can click on Route and Go. Okay, click on the exclamation mark to talk to the customer. Travel agency. Okay, click through the next. Web traffic. Okay, we'll be doing auto scaling. Then elastic load balancer. Spread across different availability zones. Okay, click on accept. Then click on go to solution center. Okay, when it's loaded, you'll see the diagram. Can click through the arrows to step through the diagram of the various portions of what we'll be doing today. You can click on the video concepts on the left to see the videos for each of the topics that we'll be using for this assignment. I'm gonna pause the video here while I look through the videos. Okay, when you're done with the videos, you can click the X at the top right to go back to this page where we can proceed to the plan. Okay, so that's the practice lab. So click on the practice button on the bottom right. Click on start lab on the top left. And then open AWS console. It's going to open in a new tab. Then we can click next. Step 2. I'm going to do for EC2. Okay, next step 3. Auto scaling groups. Scroll down to the bottom, it's the last one. Then the name would be, it's already created, so check the box. And then review the capacity details. So it's desired 1, min 1, max 1. Next step, step 4, instance management. Here. So there is only one instance ID. Okay, next step. Step 5, click the details tab. Scroll down to the network section. Details. Then scroll down to the network section. Okay, next step, step 6. Review the auto scaling group with a single subnet from one availability zone. Okay, there's one here. US East 1A. Edit button in the load balancing section. Load balancing, edit. Okay, next step, step 7, add a new load balancer. Next step, step 8, under load balancer type, choose the application. Load balancer. Okay, it's already selected. And for scheme, internet facing. Okay, next step, step 9. Under availability zones, choose all 3. Okay, scroll down, then you choose all 3, 1A, 1B, 1A, 1B, 1C. Then choose the subnet, the public subnet. Okay, so click on this, choose the public one, public and public. Okay, then next one, default routing. Create a target group. And then use the default values. Okay, click update. Then go to next step. Step 10. In the left menu, security groups. Security groups. Okay, under the network and security, click create security group. Okay, next step, step 11. Security group name, travel agency load balancer. Description, allow access to the travel agency. Load balancer from the internet. Okay, then VPC, choose the lab. Okay, click the X to remove, then choose the lab VPC, which is, okay, let me do it again. The first one, lab/travel agency VPC. Okay, then under inbound rules, click add rule. Okay, next step, step 12. The type is HTTP, source is custom. HTTP, source is custom. Then click in the search view, choose all the zeros. Okay, then for outbound rules, HTTP custom, and remove all the zeros. Okay, outbound. Okay, outbound is HTTP. Source destination is custom. Then click on the travel agency web server. Okay, remove the 0. Then click and select the travel agency web. Okay. Okay, next step. Okay, step 13. Scroll down to the bottom and create. Okay, then next step, step 14. In the left menu, click security groups. Security, you have to scroll down, security groups. Okay, then you select the travel agency web server. So it's the third one here. Then under actions, can click edit inbound rules. Okay, next step, step 15, remove the existing rule and then add a rule. Okay, delete and then add. Then next step, step 16, choose HTTP. Change to HTTP. Under the inbound source, we choose the travel agency web server. Choose the load balancer. Okay, then next step, step 17, save rules. Okay, the next step, step 18, click on the load balancers. Is the second last section here. Then choose the, okay, it's already selected for us. Click on the description. Okay, it's already selected. Then go to security section. Okay, then next step, step 19, edit security groups. Okay, then we choose the load balancer. Then deselect the web server. Then save. Okay, next step, step 20. In the left menu, click load balancers. Then under description, click the icon to copy the DNS. Okay, so you scroll down to DNS, so you copy. Next step 21, paste the DNS in a new web browser. Okay, so the travel agency website has been moved behind a DNS. So that's the website loaded. Then next step, step 22, in the same browser, tap on the end, type health. Okay, so we add on /health. Okay, it's healthy. Okay, keep this tab open for additional checks later. Next step 23, target groups. Under the load balancer, load balancing section. Then we choose the travel agency web server. Select it. Then under the health checks, we can click edit. Okay, next step, step 24. In the health check path field, /health. Then click the advance. Then next step 25, unhealthy threshold 225. Unhealthy 2, timeout 2, interval 5. then save changes. Okay, next step, 26. In the menu on the left, auto scaling groups. That's the last one. Then choose the group, scroll to network, then edit. Okay, if you select it, then scroll down to network, then edit. Okay, next step, 27. Subnet group, choose the private subnet. Private subnet 1. So do we have to remove? Okay, so we have to deselect the public. Okay, we choose the... What do we have to choose? Private subnet 1. Private subnet 1, and then deselect the public. Okay, so there's only the private subnet 1 that is selected. Okay, update, then next step. Okay, next step, step 28. Left menu instances. That's at the top. Then we select the instance. Click on the networking. Then review that the old instance is in the public subnet 1. Public subnet 1. Okay, that's correct. Then choose the instance state. Then we terminate the instance. Instance state, terminate. Okay, next step. In the pop-up window, click terminate. Terminate. Okay, so it's shutting down. Then next step, step 29. After a few minutes, refresh and observe a new instance is created. Okay, refresh. Okay, then the new instance is in the private subnet 1. Okay, the first one is terminated. Then we should see another one being created. Okay, a few minutes. Okay, after clicking the refresh, after a few minutes, then the new one is created. Currently it's pending. We can click refresh again. Okay, now it's running. Then a status check is initializing. Okay, then we can see whether the the subnet ID is in the private subnet. Okay, we select the running one. Then under subnet ID, under the networking section, it's under the private subnet 1. Okay, so that tallies with what is shown here. Then review the unique instance ID. So it's different from the first one. Okay, next step. Step 30, auto scaling groups. Choose the, okay, you might have to deselect and select so that the bottom portion is loaded. go to the activity tab, then scroll down to activity history. Okay, next step 31. Review that the old instance was terminated, and the response. Okay, the terminate, and then the response was to create a new one in response to an unhealthy state. Okay. Increasing. Okay. Next step, step 32. In a health check browser, click to refresh. Okay, so the previous instance is E7B. If we refresh, then the instance name has changed. Okay, next step, step 33. Click on auto scaling groups. Then click on edit. Okay, to deselect and select for the bottom to load. Under network. Okay, scroll down under network. Edit. Okay, next step, step 34. Choose private subnet 2. Private subnet 2. Okay, so there's 2 selected. Then click update. Okay, next step, step 35. Auto scaling groups. Select the travel agency web server under group details, edit. Okay, deselect and select for the bottom part to load. Group details, edit. Then next step 36. Desired 2, maximum 2. Desired 2, maximum 2, update. Then next step, step 37. Auto scaling groups. Then under activity, okay, uncheck and check to make it load. Activity. Then we should see 38. Activity history. The new instance was launched because the desired capacity is 2. Okay, next step. Okay, the ID of the new instance would be here, different. Okay, next step, step 39. In the left menu, click instances. Choose the instance that corresponds to the new instance ID. Okay, the new one was... Okay, let's refresh this. Okay, so the new one was E6C7. And then under the networking tab, it's under private subnet 2. So that tallies with what is shown here. Next step, step 40 in the health check browser. Okay, then when we refresh this, the instance name, whether it changes. Okay, it changes to the new one. So that is expected. Then we're done. So step 41, we have completed the practice section. We can proceed to the DIY section. Okay, so DIY section is where you'll be given a task and without any step-by-step instructions. Okay, so we have to configure auto scaling group to include a new instance in the third availability zone. Okay, how do we do that? availability zone. So now we have 1A, 1B. Then to include a new instance in a third availability zone. Okay, so the auto scaling group, that is the name. So travel agency web server, that will be the auto scaling group name. So travel agency web server with a S, then validate just to get a response for reference. Elastic load balancer ID. Okay, so where do we get that ID? Elastic load balancer. Load balancer target group. Is it this one? -1. Let's try that. Travel agency web servers -1. Okay, so that's the message. Not all three are covered. Okay, so now we can proceed to change. Let's try. Okay, so this is auto scaling group. We can do. Maybe change the network edit. Can we select private tree maybe? So that's 1C. So we got 1, 2, 3, update. So we got availability zones 1A, 1B on C. Then the desired capacity, we probably need to change to 3 so that it will create a new instance for us. Okay, so the updating of capacity. So this auto scaling group. Then maybe we can click refresh. Let's look at the instances, whether it launched the new one. Okay, so we have a third one running on availability zone 1C. Okay, let's try to validate. Okay, success. So we have completed this task. Then we can return to the city to submit the assignment. Okay, when you're back at the city, you can click the exclamation mark to talk to the customer. Then we're done. Then we can choose our reward. Let's choose the one with the aeroplane maybe. Okay, so that was the highly available web applications assignment. Okay, hope you found it useful.